start tapping in a little bit more on that bladder health or more pelvic floor organ prolapse. So if you guys have heard of POP, pelvic organ prolapse, this could be bladder, this could be uterus, this could be rectal area. So let's go over this a little bit more. In our pelvis, I'm gonna grab my organs. You've got your bladder that sits up at the front of the pubic bone. Behind the bladder is going to sit the uterus. Behind the uterus, it's going to sit the bowel, okay? Bladder, uterus, bowel. Now, when they're sitting in the pelvis, this is when I talked about yesterday and at the beginning of Pelvismas, any stool, really more like that, any stool that is in here, that stool's hard, so it's going to push through this way, and it's going to cause or can be a symptom of bladder leakage because that stool can press in on that bladder, causing more bladder leakage. Now, so we always want to fix up the constipation. What we tend to find with constipation, what people are doing is that Valsalva maneuver, where they are bearing down to try to get that firm stool out of here. Well, when we bear down, where these guys are sitting as females, we have a vaginal opening. That vaginal opening, especially on a toilet, you've got the toilet seat sitting at your sits bones here, sits bones here. We've got a lot of openness that is gravity is just allowing to sink down into that toilet. So if we bear down to try to get firm stool out of there, we are pushing these organs, these three organs, out towards vaginal opening, okay? Over time, if we do that over and over, we're weakening our muscle tissue to allow these organs to come into vaginal canal. Now, myself, I had bladder prolapse after having, it was my first kiddo, but I noticed this most with my second kiddo after my second birth. If I held my poop because I was back to working at like 10 weeks postpartum, and I was working in a hospital, so if I had to hold my poop because I was working with patients, by the time, and that's holding stool's filling up in the colon, those muscles are getting stretched because you got stool pushing up against them. By the time I would go have a bowel movement, that tissue, because I was constipated during pregnancy, okay? Then postpartum, I still had weakened muscles after being pregnant and going through childbirth. I would feel this pressure in my vaginal canal. Now, mine was not rectal prolapse, it was more bladder prolapse, but this guy was pushing in on the bladder, causing that bladder to also come down. So you can have a combination, honestly, of any of the prolapses. For us visually, what we see if it's a bladder prolapse, when we are doing an exam, we may see, as we ask patients to bear down or to sit there, we might see bladder pushing in on the pelvic floor muscles and poking its head out here. We might see the rectum starting to push up this way, or we might see the uterus coming down more in the midline. Sometimes we are going to see 2, sometimes we see 3, like a little snowman. And that just tells us we've got weakened muscle tissue or ligaments. It could be ligaments from the organs themselves that are causing this weakness to happen. I treat prolapse like a sprained ankle. When we sprain an ankle, if it is a ligament issue, sprained ankle, we're spraining the ligaments, we strengthen the muscles surrounding the joint, to help with stability, strength, endurance, and that should improve symptoms depending on how bad the severity is. So if your prolapse is all the way out and it's like hanging on the table when we do an internal exam, that prolapse we are sending back to the doctor. If it's popping out in the shower, because people will complain of their prolapses popping out when they bend over when they're cleaning their shower and they come up, typically because they're holding their breath, they're to get back up, that's pressure pushing down the same way it pushes down when we're on their toilet. If it's popping out in the shower when they're doing that, we want to send you to the doctor and have surgery. But anything like a grade 1 where we see it slightly poking, grade 2 where it's still inside and it's coming down, grade 3 where we're up to that opening, we always like to try physical therapy even before you see your doctor to see, can we improve symptoms? A lot of times patients will come in too saying they feel pressure down there, and we may not see anything until I ask them to push or bear down. So those are the ones that are easily fixed if we can just improve the pressure system. So when you're on the toilet, that's why I am so headstrong on using a squatty potty for urinating and bowel movements, because when we urinate and say the kids are screaming, or you're like, I've got like 30 seconds before I've got to hop on a call, if you're pushing to pee, again, you've got an open toilet where those organs are going against gravity, and we're creating a bad environment, a poor environment for those organs and for that tissue. Bowel movement, same thing. We're bearing down, it's pushing this way. So we can have that shift of a rectal prolapse, bladder prolapse, or the uterine prolapse coming down. So prolapse happens about 50% of the time with childbirth. It also happens quite frequently with increased weight gain, weakened glutes, heavy lifting, and heavy carrying with poor posture. So there's a lot of different factors that play into it. One way that I really like to just kind of make sure things are working, and this is why I'm such a stickler on the umbrella that's kind of going around right now in social media with public health being like, Kegels are bad, Kegels are bad. Like, I'm not all for that. I think everybody needs to know how to move the pelvic floor. That's why we've had a video on how to pick it up. Can we pick it up? Can we bring it back down? What's our coordination like? And you have to know that for the pelvic floor too. But then we start adding it in with activities for glute strength, and that's when it's a beautiful picture for prolapse symptoms improving. One way I like to tap into this, especially if it's bladder prolapse, is by leaning forward. So we went over how to do Kegels the other day, laying down and sitting. When it comes to more bladder issues, which is where we tend to see more of our prolapse happening, you want to actually shift your weight forward. So like leaning on your knees here, you're going to let your belly relax, let your pelvic floor relax. You're going to breathe in. As you blow out, suck up that smoothie, pick up that blueberry and hold it. Slowly release it back down. Now, if you forget what it feels like, do it sitting as well. Sitting up nice and tall on those sits bounds. You're going to breathe in, blow out, pick up that blueberry, suck up that smoothie. You probably feel it more in the back around the rectal area or sits bones. Let it all the way back down. We're going to go leaning forward again. Breathe in, let it relax, blow out, suck up that smoothie, pick up that blueberry. This should be more forward at the urethral clitoral area, okay? While there, we're also going to come back, let it release. We're going to try it again. So get used to what that feels like. I'm going to have you breathe in. This time, as you pick up that blueberry, suck up that smoothie, with your mouth, I want you to pucker. Like you're going to call a dog or your cat over, okay? Let it release all the way back down. Puckering is my the best kept secret for the pelvic floor. We're going to do that again. Breathe in. Pick it up, suck it up, all the way back down. Y'all, lips and lips, that's how we get them to go together. Your lips and your other lips were together until you were an 8-week fetus, and it's separated in the womb, so we can activate here or here. If we're chewing a lot of gum in the back part of the pelvic floor, it can also activate the back part of the pelvic floor, and we can have too much tightness, too much tension. Let's go one more here, a little side note. Breathe in. And out, pucker. And you have to pucker, go ahead and release it all the way back down, where like a dog or a cat could really hear you. Because if we're barely contracting here, you're gonna be barely contracting there, okay? Hopefully you felt a little stronger activation with doing that. This time we're gonna pick it up again. You're not going to pucker. So breathe in and out. Pick up that blueberry, suck up that smoothie, put it all the way back down. All right, make sure you test that out today, especially with an activity that you know you might have leakage with, or you might have pressure with. Try the puckering. If you're not seated, and say it's with lifting weights or bending over and lifting something at the home, here's my trick with that. Because we're gonna get our body in the same position. The goal is with sitting and leaning forward, you're putting that bladder on that pubic bone, making those muscles work for you. You can also do that, notice my knees are bent here, in a modified bent over position at home. So countertop bench where you're lifting or where you're having that pressure or leakage. You're gonna breathe in, blow out, pick it up, all the way back down. Again, breathe in and out, all the way back down. One more, breathe in, out, all the way back down. So give that a shot. Let me know how the puckering goes for you, if you feel more activation down there, or if it's like, I feel like it's fluttery, but I'm not really feeling much. If you're not feeling it in these positions, please lay back down. Do gravity eliminated on your back. And if you're like, I really don't feel the puckering as much with that one either, you can go into child's pose position while laying on the ground, or our very well known hips elevated with that pillow underneath the pelvis, and get it to activate there, okay? If you want more tips on that or have questions about prolapse, or hey Amanda, I am having prolapse, please comment under the video, but also comment with how the leaning forward, connecting that pelvic floor, helps with you, okay? How it works and how well you're feeling it. Have a great day, y'all. I really appreciate you guys being here for Pelvismas, and I'm here to help with anything you need moving forward. Bye.